In this first program, we're going to write our very first C program. We're going to be using the Dev C++ development environment, which is free and available from Bloodshed Software. You can reach the website directly at www.bloodshed.net/devcpp.html, and then follow the instructions to download the software and install it on your machine. The Dev C++ environment is completely free and can be used for both C++ and the C programming language. You'll find it's one of the best free tools available. Once you have the Dev C++ environment downloaded and installed, you're pretty much ready to start writing your programs. Simply click File and New, and in this case you're going to choose a new source file. A project is a collection of files that make up one particular program. In this case, we just need the one source file for the program we're going to be writing. I like to save my file before I actually even type any commands or code, and the reason I like to do that will become apparent in a minute. But go ahead and click File and Save As. Navigate to the folder where you're going to save your files, and go ahead and save your file as hello-world.c. You'll notice that this particular development environment saves files of a number of different types. We're going to go ahead and do a C source file, and you can see the standard extension for that is .c. So again, hello-world.c. And now you'll notice our tab that's open is hello-world.c, and we're about ready to program. Before we do, I just want to point out a couple of important buttons here in the Dev C++ environment. You'll see that this button right here is the Compile button. That'll prepare our software to execute. We also have a Run button, a Compile and Run, Rebuild All, and Debug. At first, we're going to be using this Compile and Run feature quite a bit, because that'll compile our software into code that the computer can understand, and then run the software here in the Dev C++ environment. Okay, so let's start writing our program. The first line of code is going to be pound include stdio.h. And this line of code you'll see at the beginning of most C programs. What I'm doing here is I'm telling C I want to include the standard input and output headers when we compile the file. C will include files that I tell it to, or include sets of commands that I tell it to, so this particular directive here on the first line simply says to include the standard input and output header, so that gives me access to certain commands. The next thing I'm going to do is write the main function definition. Now the main function is the function that runs first in my program. You can think of functions as a block of code. A function simply is a set of code that is run at some point during the program, and I can either control when that's run as the programmer, or if it's the main function, it'll automatically be run immediately when the program executes. You'll notice I also put this French bracket here and a closing French bracket. Closing French bracket. There we go. Closing French bracket right there. These brackets denote the beginning and the end of the commands in the main function, because I might want to put multiple commands in the function, and this tells the compiler, when I compile the program, where the function begins and ends. So in my main function, I'm going to use the printf command. The printf command prints out whatever I tell it to that's within these parentheses and then these quotes. The quotes indicate that we're literally going to print out exactly what's between the quotes, and what's between the quotes is known as a string literal. So we've got our printf command or printf function. We've got opening and closing parentheses, and then we've got our string literal, which is what we're going to print out. We then have a semicolon, which indicates that this command is done. This is the end of line. So when we compile this program, it'll read this as one command, see the semicolon, and know that whatever's after this, if there is anything, is the next command. We actually can compile and run this program right now, but we're going to run into a small problem when we do. So I'm going to go ahead and choose my compile and run option here. And you may have seen just a quick flash of another window. And the reason for that is we have nothing to hold the window where Hello World is printed out, which is called the console window open. It prints Hello World and then exits. So we're going to add one more command, and that's the get character command or function. What this will do is wait for us to hit a character, and then it's going to exit and terminate the program. So now, when we hit compile and run, we get our console window, and it says Hello World. And it's waiting now because the get character function is running. As soon as I hit a character, I'm going to hit enter on my keyboard. That's going to disappear because the program has terminated. If you've run this and compiled it yourself, congratulations, you've created your first C program. What I'd like you to do next is go ahead and make a small change to this program, so instead of saying Hello World, it says hello and then your name. Go ahead and give that a try. The solution, of course, is to change the string literal in the printf command. So if I wanted this to say hello Mark instead of hello world, I'll simply change the text within the string literal. That's the only change I actually have to make. I'll go ahead and compile and run now, and we get hello Mark instead of hello world. If your name isn't Mark, it should be hello whatever your name is. Well, that's our first C program, and that brings us to the very end of this first lesson. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you'll look for more tutorials from LearnToProgram.tv.